My name is Jenny, and I'm a wife and mom raising 2 kids. But I used to live a more glamorous life as a TV reporter. I was on the nightly news interviewing pop stars and politicians. So when I said goodbye to TV and hello to motherhood, I suddenly discovered what we moms are up against. We live in a world that tells us to be rich and famous, thin and successful. You know, almost nobody says, "Oh, hey, you're a mom? That's fabulous." But you are fabulous, and I'm here to tell you why.
It's the Channelmom Show, celebrating you with Jenny Dean Schmidt.
Beautiful faces anymore. I stare at a picture of you.
Welcome back to the Channelmom Show, where we are celebrating you on Mile High Sports Radio, AM 1510, FM 93.7. I am your host, Jenny Dean Schmidt. We're so glad you joined us. We really hope this next interview is going to help you. By the way, if you have any questions for us or any comments, Facebook.com/ChannelMom. Or you know what? You can call our guest today and ask her a question. If you have a toxic friend in your life and you're just not sure what to do about it, 303-297-1510. So let's get to this. Maybe you just need a few friends. Our next guest could help you with that too. Florence Isaacs is a mom and a grandmother, as well as the author of a book called Toxic Friends, True Friends, and her new book, What Do You Say When? She focuses on issues like relationships, communication, and etiquette, and that has landed her appearances on The View, as well as ABC TV's Viewpoint and Martha Stewart Living on the radio, in addition to numerous magazines you might read, including Glamour, Essence, Good Housekeeping, and Redbook. We are honored to have author Florence Isaacs on the Channelmom Show today. Welcome, Florence.
I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear that Manhattan accent, Shelley?
Manhattan, no.
I love it. I think it's awesome. She was apologetic about it, but I really like it. All righty, let's get to it, Florence. Can you just explain to our audience, what is a toxic friend?
Well, a toxic friend is somebody who is unsupportive, unrewarding, unsatisfying, draining, stifling, or makes the relationship unequal. In other words, she feels that she is wiser than you are, or puts you on a pedestal, because the idea of friendship is that it's 2 equals.
Yeah.
And then you each have something to offer.
But let me ask you, is it appropriate, and we talked about this in the pre-interview, is it appropriate to accept a little toxicity for a while just for the sake of the friendship?
Well, it's not only advisable, it's necessary. We all have bad days. We all, when perhaps we say something that we wish we hadn't, or we lose our tempers, or whatever. And in addition, there are times when one friend is in a very vulnerable position and maybe has to be a taker for a certain amount of time. For example, if there's illness in the family and she's stressed out, or she lost her job, or even her husband.
Right.
And so when I talk about a toxic friend being someone who is unsupportive, for example, or unsatisfying, draining, I'm talking about someone who is regularly that way. That it's not on a temporary basis. It's one thing if it's for a month or two going through a bad time. It's another thing if every time you talk to this person, after you hang up the phone, you feel bad about yourself. Then you have to ask, what am I getting out of this relationship? It's important to periodically visit your friendships and literally do a balance sheet and list the positives and what you do get out of it, and what the negatives are. And the positives should always outweigh the negatives, otherwise you're in a toxic relationship, if it's a regular occurrence.
Right. Well, I have to confess to you that feels so business-like to me, and kind of almost unspiritual. And I wonder, that question does go through my mind. How long am I just supposed to stick this out and just do the right thing and follow the golden rule and for lack of a better phrase, just do what God wants me to do? Should I stick with this person for 10 years? We've all heard stories where somebody was a drug addict for years and years, and then they just credit this one friend with not giving up on them. So I just don't know quite where to draw that line.
Well, I think you have to realize that support supporting someone else when they're going through a bad time is one thing. But if you're talking about an ongoing thing where the person just is not willing to change, where the person is doing something destructive, sticking it out with the person is taking something from your life, and it's also not being supportive.
It's enabling them.
Yes, it is. It is. And so again, is this a temporary thing that is going to pass, or is it going on for a couple of years? And the other issue is, how long do you know this person? It's one thing if you stick with the person who is a childhood friend or someone you know for 10 years, someone you're extremely close to. But, we women are nurturers, and too often we go out of our way for people that we really don't know very well or aren't that close to. Mm-hmm. And, you have only so many resources, and you do have to set priorities. And you can't forget your own family, because it is going to affect you if you're always in this negative situation.
Sure. What about moms? I mean, do you find a particular problem with moms? Like, let's say they're competing, or that one mom is raising her kids in one way, and then that creates a dilemma for the other mom, because when her child goes over there, she doesn't necessarily approve of how the other mom runs the household. Does that make for another dynamic that gets thrown into the mix that makes it even more difficult for moms to keep friends?
Well, it can. I think in most cases, moms are pretty flexible.
Yeah.
But if you've got, if you do not feel that your child should eat foods that are not organic. I mean, many people feel that way at this time. But there are also many people who don't feel that way. And I think then the issue is, how often does this come up? Does your child go to that person's house every single day and eat meals there? Or are you talking about your child going there for a birthday party, which is a once a year kind of thing, once or twice a year?
Yeah.
So I think you do have to be flexible, but let's also talk about what are you flexible about. You are not flexible if you feel that your child's safety is at risk. For example, if especially with an older child, if there is no supervision or not enough supervision when there's a visit, you just can't put your child's safety at risk.
No.
On the other hand, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. As I said, if they if they eat chocolate one afternoon, nothing is going to happen.
Right.
But not having anybody there to make sure that they don't run across the street is quite another story.
Yes, and we are speaking with Florence Isaacs, the author of Toxic Friends, True Friends, among many other books. Florence, what about our kids? And then I want Shelley to be able to get to a question. What do we do? It is such a dilemma, because I'm trying to model for my children that you try to love people, and you try to help people, and you try to befriend people, frankly. And at what point do you consider whether or not your child may have a toxic friend?
Because if your child is unhappy most of the time after spending time with that friend, something is going on, and it's important to find out what it is. I mean, it depends on the age of the child, of course, but for example, we've all heard about bullying. If the friend is bullying her or putting her down, or him, or excluding your child in some way, this is just not acceptable.
No, not at all. Shell, did you have a question?
So my question is, when you decide that you do have a friend that's toxic, how do you go about cutting them out? Really, that's what we're talking about, right?
Well, it doesn't always mean cutting them out. Sometimes the other person is not aware that they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's important, I feel, to right away, if somebody says or does something that bothers you, instead of keeping quiet and letting it build and build and build, it's important to, at that time, say something about it. It really bothered me that you were an hour late yesterday. For example, if you get it out then, you may find out that the person actually had a very good reason for it. Something happened that you weren't aware of. Or the person may be a habitual latecomer and just not realize that it affects other people. So you're bringing it to her attention. Now, if you have a talk like that with somebody and they just go right on being, irresponsible or whatever your complaint is, that is another story. And then you have to decide, well, how important is this person to me? We cannot be friends with everybody, and there are only so many hours in the day. So who are you going to spend your time with? Are you going to spend it with people who enrich your life and your family's life, or are you going to spend with people who cause you problems?
But I happen to believe in unselfish friendships. And yeah, they can only go on so long because eventually you're going to be drained. But what do you do about maybe even they're just acquaintances, but you feel like you're supposed to help that person and be an unselfish friend for years potentially? What do you think of that?
I think you have to decide what's more important. It is not selfish to protect yourself and to protect your relationships with your family. If you are spending a lot of time on this person where you are not getting any benefits out of it, it's taking energy from you and it's taking time from you, and that is coming from people who could also benefit from you, but will also bring something into your life that's positive.
Sure. And what do you do? I mean, what is what's the suggested etiquette if you feel like maybe so you go to them and you say I'm having this problem, and maybe you do it once or twice, and then if they don't seem to be making any significant changes or attempting to accommodate you as a friend, do you just sort of stop spending time with them, or do you announce that you're going to stop spending time with them? What do you do there?
Well, I think you start off by not seeing them as frequently. Doesn't mean you stop seeing them. But you, if you're seeing them once a week, maybe you start seeing them every 2 or 3 weeks. And because in many cases you can tolerate certain things if you don't have to see the person that often. But if you're seeing somebody every day who is really outrageous, you eventually you're going to explode.
Sure, and you're not doing them any favors.
And that's the issue, because if you don't start talking about what's bothering you, when it comes up, it just builds and builds, and it comes out in a way that it doesn't make you feel good about yourself, and also doesn't accomplish anything.
No, it doesn't help them really to blow up.
Yes.
So we're nearing the end of the interview. We had about 30, 40 seconds left. Can you tell us about your website and how people can find you and your latest book, Florence?
Yes, my website is www.florenceisaacs.com.
Okay.
And it lists all my books. And in addition, I do a monthly column online for legacy.com. It happens to be very specialized on condolence and grief-related subjects. It's a Q&A kind of thing, but it's helpful to many people.
Oh, I'm sure. Shelley and I have a couple of friends who are going through that, so we will look that up. Thank you so much, Florence, for being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Oh, wonderful. Take care. Bye-bye.